What's the highest KD weapon and attachments in Warzone? I'm here to answer that question. We'll have everything from snipers to SMGs to long-range ARs and sniper supports. You'll be able to craft top-tier loadouts to improve your KD from the top 10 highest kill-death ratio weapons in Warzone. Welcome back, I'm Austin, and the average KD in Warzone is 0.98, which is pretty low, but all these weapons easily exceed that, and all this information is coming from Warzone Ranked. And the first weapon on this list is going to be the Swiss, the only sniper rifle here, with an average KD of 1.08. Why does this thing perform better than the Kar 98 when players use it? The first reason is going to be the bullet velocity is much higher, making it have less bullet drop off at long ranges, which is where most of your sniper engagements happen. This means it's going to be easier to hit headshots because you don't have to adjust as much for the bullet drop off. Then the second thing is, it has much better body shot damage. The Kar 98 only hits 86 to the body, so it doesn't affect players too much when you hit. That means it will take 3 bullets to knock someone at a long range, where it only takes 2 with the Swiss. So it has better damage, better bullet velocity, while still having really good ADS, just not quite as good as the Kar 98. Either way, I think this is the easier to use sniper rifle. Now for the attachments, they're pretty straightforward. We got the GRU and the Combat Recon, which are going to max out its bullet velocity. And then we got the SWAT 5MW laser, Serpent Wrap, and Bruiser Grip, all helping with the mobility, making the ADS really good. This thing's easy to use and is the best sniper rifle. The 9th highest KD weapon is going to be the Cold War AK-47 at a 1.12 KD. And what this thing does well is you can use it at long range or as a sniper support or as an SMG, so it's very multifaceted. And it has a really good TTK up close for an assault rifle at 600 milliseconds, and then long range 700 TTK is actually really fast and above the meta. I would say generally what you want for a long range weapon is about 750 milliseconds, and this easily exceeds that. Now the recoil is a little bit more than some of the Vanguard weapons, but it does have a better base time to kill. And then the movement stats are fairly average for an assault rifle. This thing is just an all-around good weapon. And for the class setup, people with the highest KD using it use it as a long range weapon. I prefer it as a sniper support, but apparently this thing's better at long range. So what do? We got a pretty basic setup. We got the GRU and the Spetsnaz RPK barrel. This is the max bullet velocity, making it more hit scan out to a farther range. Then we got the axial arms and the Spetsnaz grip to help us with our accuracy. Then people use the 45 round mag, which I fully agree with because it doesn't hurt our aim down sight speed, whereas the Bakelite 60 round would hurt that. And since we're trying to make this thing still have pretty decent mobility, because you can still beat a lot of SMGs. The 8th highest KD weapon is going to be the KGM40 with an average of 1.16. Why can people use this thing? Because it has absolutely no recoil. The TTK is really low at 940 milliseconds, which, as I said before, meta TTK for long range is generally around 750. You gotta think of it this way. This is the most accurate weapon in Warzone's history. It's better than the Automaton was when Vanguard was released. It's better than the Krig at its peak. Your theoretical time to kill is your actual time to kill. And what I mean by that, the AK-47 theoretical TTK is 700 milliseconds, but because it has a little bit more recoil, you might miss a couple bullets, which is gonna lower your TTK, whereas this one, you won't miss a single bullet, so your theoretical TTK is your actual time to kill, which is what gives this thing a huge advantage. Now if we go to the best KD attachments, we're going to see that the recoil booster is here, which actually knocks off 5% of the TTK, which is going to make it 893, making it much more competitive. You're still going to actually be able to hit every shot. There's a couple changes I would make to the setup. First off, subsonic is nice because it does take us off the minimap. There won't be a little red dot pinging up there, even though we don't have a silencer. But because this is a long range weapon, I think we have to put on lengthen to get the extra bullet velocity to make it a little bit more hit scan. And then the second thing, the ADS on this weapon is really bad on this build. I actually like to take off the taped grip and switch it up to the leather grip, which turns it into an average ADS instead of a really bad one. And then the last change I made was I actually have tight grip on instead of vital. I don't actually have this unlocked yet because I was just testing it out. And when I crunch the numbers, vital doesn't actually lower the time to kill with the extra 1 damage it gives to the torso, unless you get some really weird situations where someone has like 225 health and you're like, oh, it takes 1 less bullet. But at the base 250 health, this doesn't help at all. And what makes this weapon good is its accuracy, so I don't want to take away from it with this, and I'm going to really lean into it with tight grip, so during sustained fire, this gun doesn't move. The 7th highest KD weapon on this list is going to be the DP27, coming in at a 1.16 to match the KGM40. Now, what does this do better than that? Well, it has a 750 millisecond time to kill at long range, which is right right on the meta, and up close it matches the AK with 600 milliseconds. So this thing can be used up close or at range while being really accurate and having a good fire rate, making it extremely forgiving to use. This is my favorite LMG to come out of Vanguard. One, because we can have an 81 round mag or a 105 round mag, unlike the Bren, so this thing actually feels like an LMG. The only con to it is going to be its reload time is really long, but it is a light machine gun. What do we expect? Now for the highest KD attachments, there's two changes I would make on this thing. Because it does have some horizontal recoil, I do want to fix that, because vertical recoil is extremely easy to control, whereas horizontal makes things get a little tricky. How do we fix that? We switch this stock from the Empress VZV, which does help our accuracy during sustained fire and when we're crouched or prone. But the ZAC S2M helps our horizontal recoil and our ADS speed. We don't care about hip fire on the con, and the movement speed we're already getting as a con on this other one. So this is going to be much better, making it a lot easier to control. And then the one other change I would make is this magazine helps our damage and our bullet velocity and range, but I really don't like it because it lowers our fire rate, making it less forgiving, lowers our ADS speed, as well as lowers our recoil and accuracy. And we want this thing to be as accurate as possible, so I just use the base magazine, which still does hurt our ADS and movement speed. We don't actually lose fire rate, so it's still going to be really forgiving while being easier to use, and this thing is probably going to be the top end LMG in a couple weeks as soon as they nerf the Bren one more time. The sixth highest KD weapon is going to be the Bren, coming in at a 1.2, which I was just comparing to the DP27. This thing is probably slightly more accurate. It has an equivalent time to kill up close, but at long range it has a 700 millisecond TTK with the correct setup instead of 750. So this thing is easily meta at long range, but I do suspect it gets another nerf. They already nerfed its barrel, so it no longer has infinite range, so that definitely took it down a notch, but this is still one of the easiest to use weapons in the game. The only con to it is the 40 round mag that doesn't even reload quickly. If we go to the setup, there's only one thing I would change on this. People that are really skilled use the tape grip for aiming stability and weapon swap quickness, but I think the majority of the player base will do better with the polymer grip that helps your accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, as well as subtracts flinch resistance. So I think this is going to be the best setup for the majority of players right here. The fifth highest KD weapon in Warzone is going to be the Type 100, coming in at a 1.25. This is the fastest time to kill SMG in the entire game of Warzone, and the fastest time to kill fully automatic weapon. I don't know why this thing isn't used more. You're gonna have to set it up correctly where you get the fire rate to over 1,000, and then you get a time to kill under 500 milliseconds, which is completely unheard of. The recoil is gonna be a bit much, but aiming it inside of 15 meters I found to have no problems with. This thing can get you out of terrible situations and flip a fight around in an instant because of how fast it is to eliminate other players. There's a couple issues with it where the magazine size is a little small considering how fast it fires and the damage per mag, but if you're using this thing in duos, there's nothing better than it. For the highest KD attachments, we gotta have the recoil booster on, the rapid barrel, and this 48 round mag, and this is what gets the fire rate to be insane as well as the time to kill. And there's only two changes that I might make. First off, the Sakura iron sights do help the ADS. I prefer to actually use the slate reflector because of the extra recoil. I find it easier for me to land my shots when I have this optic. The little red dot just helps me out. The other change is up to you. You could switch off of hollow point to go to subsonic so you don't show up on the minimap. Hollow point just means your limb damage will be equivalent to your chest shot damage, and you'll still be getting the sub 500 millisecond TTK even if you're hitting them in the arm or the leg. I just find that to make it way more consistent, and the 48 rounds is the biggest magazine as well as the one that gets the damage up. Overall, this weapon is definitely underappreciated, and I would give this thing a shot. Just don't use it outside of 15 meters. The fourth highest KD weapon in Warzone is going to be the Automaton, coming in at a 1.29. This thing is like the KGM40, but it kills a little faster and has a little bit more recoil. So the KGM40 has a 893 millisecond TTK with the recoil booster, and the base Automaton has an 864 time to kill at long range. They're pretty similar. If you want a little bit faster time to kill with a little bit more recoil, you go with the Automaton. It's still really easy to aim, and I was a guy who never liked this type of weapon in Warzone. When the Krig was at the peak of the meta, I didn't like to use it because it still killed in over 800 milliseconds. I just don't think these things kill fast enough if you're a high skill player. But if you're lower skill and you need something that's really easy to use, this weapon and the KGM40 are definitely for you. There's only one thing that I think I would change because it's pretty perfect. Everything's built to lower the recoil and make it have better bullet velocity. But perk 2 on hand equipment dexterity, I mean, that's not bad, but if you have amped, I don't see the reason to use this. And you can just have fully loaded and get the max ammo in here because you're gonna need it. This thing does eat up some bullets because the damage per bullet is very low. The third highest KD weapon in Warzone is going to be the Owen gun, and this is one of my personal favorites. It has a 133 average, and the reason it's so good is because it can be used as an SMG up close, or it can be used at mid-range, so it's a perfect sniper support option. This thing actually can have a really good TTK and can be really accurate, and you can make the mobility fairly competitive with SMGs. So there's really no reason to not be using this thing. It's one of the most versatile subs in the entire game of Warzone. Now for the setup of the highest KD attachments, we start off with the recoil booster, of course. You're going to notice that is a really common trend because it just gives you a 5% boost to your time to kill. So it's just a net positive attachment. Then over here we got the Gawan Shrouded, because what this does is it actually gets rid of our second damage range drop off, which means instead of having 2 fall offs where the TTK is really bad on the third one, we only get 1 fall off where it still has a really competitive time to kill against ARs, and it's accurate enough to beat them. We're gonna go for the M38 Slate Reflector optic, because what happens is, you probably already know, it kind of pushes the gun out of your way when you switch to the Slate Reflector up close, and then you can use the M38 when you're going out to more ranged fights if you're using this as a sniper support. But the one attachment I'd actually like to change is the rear grip from fabric to polymer, and that's because it makes it more accurate. While it does lose some ADS because the fabric was boosting that, I think this is clearly worth it, because this is definitely at its best as a sniper support. The second highest KD weapon in Warzone is going to be the C58 at a 138, which is an astoundingly high average KD. That is 0.4 above the average. This thing is a forgotten weapon that's only picked in about 1.2% of loadouts, but I definitely think this should come back into the meta. So its long range time to kill, which is where you want to use it, is 759 milliseconds, which, as I said before, the meta time to kill for long range weapons should generally be around 750 milliseconds. This thing definitely has a little bit more kick than guns like the KGM-40 and the Automaton, but it kills in nearly 100 to 150 milliseconds faster than those, so it's definitely worth using over it, because even if you miss a couple shots, you'll still be killing enemies faster. What are we going to do to make this build really good? Let's look at the highest KD attachments. The one thing about it that isn't great is going to be its mobility, especially its ADS, which is why the 45 round mag is the highest KD attachment, because it doesn't hurt our aim down sight speed like the Stagnag 55 round drum. Then the rest of it is a pretty straightforward build. We get the max bullet velocity from the barrel and muzzle, and then we get the field agent grip for accuracy and the axial arms 3x scope, because it's just a really clean optic and gives us some good zoom. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. The highest KD gun in Warzone is the Well gun at an astounding 1.44, which should tell the devs that this thing is overpowered and should probably be nerfed. It would be used even more if it wasn't unlocked via challenges. The only SMGs that kill faster is the Type 100 from earlier on the list, but the Well gun has the highest KD because it is ridiculously easy to use. Unlike the other SMGs that have really good time to kills up close, OTS, Cold War MP5, and Type 100, this thing still has a competitive TTK at range while having no recoil. This gun is a joke, and if you're not using it, you're missing out. For the highest KD attachments, of course we got the recoil booster on, and then we gotta use the 40 round Gorenko mag, because this thing gives it the best time to kill while still being really easy to use up close. There's only 2 changes that I would make to this gun, and one of them is debatable. First off, the underbarrel, I like to switch from the Mark V skeletal to the hand stop, just because this thing still has a competitive time to kill out to farther ranges. I might as well help the recoil out a bit more. Then for the ammunition, you can pick between hollow point and subsonic. I personally like to use subsonic to stay off the minimap, because I'm typically going to be really close to enemies when I'm using it, and then they'll see exactly where I am. But other than that, this gun is fantastic. Just try to combine some of the weapons on the list. I would recommend using this Well gun with the DP27 as well as the Owen gun with the Swiss. And if you want to see another top 10 list, I got a video right here. Peace.